Okay, I think we're ready to go back. Yeah, thank you. I got a thumbs up back here. It's good. All right. I think we're at item C, approving the regional transit safety performance targets. I'm going to introduce Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor Vogel. So as many of you may remember, a few months back, this board adopted regional safety performance measure targets as part of a federal planning requirement for MPOs. Those were for roadway safety, and then in 2018, the Federal Transit Administration published the Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan Final Rule, which requires public transit providers who receive federal funds through the 5307 grants program to develop safety plans and set annual safety performance targets. Transit is already one of the safest modes, but these plans and targets help make it even safer. So from the transit agency side, they're required to develop safety plans and establish targets, which all of our transit agencies in the region have already completed. So the only step left is for the MPO to support these targets specific to the MPO planning area. So before I show you all the targets, I want to emphasize how much safer transit is than driving, walking, or biking, because it guides how transit agencies set targets. So for example, in our region, we've seen increasing fatalities and serious injuries over the past few years on our roadways across all modes. And from the transit side, safety events, especially severe safety events like fatalities and serious injuries, they rarely happen. So over the past 5 years, there were 943 fatalities on our roadways versus only 3 transit-related fatalities. Another thing that's different is how we measure the targets. So for the roadway safety fatality rate, we calculate that per 100 million vehicle miles traveled. And then we ended up with a regional target of 0.87. But for transit safety, it's calculated per 100,000 revenue vehicle miles. And we're shooting for a target of 0 for those. So here are each transit agency's safety performance targets by mode. So from the top, WeGo, RTA, Franklin Transit Authority, and Murfreesboro Rover. And then by target, we have fatalities, fatality rate, injuries, injury rate, safety events, safety event rate, and system reliability, which is the mean distance between major mechanical failures. I will note that the fatality and fatality rate targets are 0. And so we're planning to include these in our TIP and RTP per federal requirements, but that's all I've got. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to take them, but if not, I'll hand it back to Mayor Vogel.
Okay, any questions for Daniel? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Daniel. I need a motion to adopt this resolution for 2108.
Move approval. Second.
Got a motion and a second. No discussion. All in favor, vote aye. Anyone nay? Declare motion approved. Item D, the COVID Relief Fund call-in projects. Dawn, you're back up.
Thank you, Mayor Vogel. So the last action item that we have for you today is requesting the board's endorsement of a call for projects that prioritize the COVID relief funds coming to our region. As you recall, we've talked about the Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act, or also known as CRISA. Over the past couple of months, it was enacted at the end of December and appropriates approximately $10 billion across the country to address COVID-19 impacts, and of that $10 billion across the country, approximately $210 million is coming to the state of Tennessee, and then to our region in particular, about $8.5 million in funds that have to be prioritized or obligated in a fairly short time frame. The funding is coming to not only the Nashville metropolitan area, but also the Murfreesboro urbanized area. And for the Nashville area, that obligation deadline is September 30th, 2024. And then for the Murfreesboro UZA, it's a shortened time frame of December 31st, 2022. There's no required match on these funds. And so in looking for a call for projects, some of the details and priorities that we're looking for is giving priority to projects that can be implemented quickly, given that obligation time deadline, and then also projects that address the impacts of COVID-19. And so What we have on this slide is a number of those potential project types across 4 main categories: roadway safety improvements, transportation technology upgrades, sidewalk connectivity and pedestrian improvements, as well as ADA-related improvements. And in addition to these project types that we're looking for applications from you all, we're also looking to utilize a portion of this funding to accelerate the acquisition of big data tools and software to help improve not only our transportation planning efforts, but also better monitoring of the system at a more granular level of detail, and also expand across modes as well as add in volume data as that has become increasingly important over the past year.
Yes.
The timeline for the obligation of the fund? That has been consistent. I think we presented last month with the addition of the Murfreesboro timeline that we hadn't mentioned before. That's a little bit tighter. Yeah, and we'll send this out, and then in addition, in your okay. Sure. And one thing, we had a fact sheet in the packet that details a lot of this information too. That'll be a good ongoing resource to refer to. In terms of the application process, we are doing a kind of a 2-staged approach, having a pre-application as well as a formal application process. And this is really with the goal of having that pre-application in order to screen some of these projects. This is a little bit different than some of the other programs that we've administered in the past, with slightly different eligibilities. And so this, I think, will help everyone save time, and we can go through that screening process to help identify and ensure that those projects, be good candidates for this tight time frame. And we'll have that pre-application due by July 14th, and then targeting a full application by August 20th. And I think our approach through this process will be, trying to move you through the pre-application screening process as quickly as can so that you can start the full application. The plan is to have the electronic pre-application up on the website and live by as early as next week, if not sooner. And that'll make it a fairly easy to complete form and application on your end. Just in terms of the next steps, so today we'll be requesting you to issue this call for projects. As I mentioned, the July 14th as the deadline for the pre-application, August 20th for the formal application submission, and then we'll be evaluating those applications and looking to announce awards by our September meeting. So with that, I will be requesting the board's endorsement of this call for projects, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Anyone got any questions, Sean? Go ahead, Mayor.
Sean, under your area of transportation technology, many of us in the county get convenience that were overrun during this last 15 months. People cleaning out their house, bringing all that stuff to the convenience. Our numbers are up 45 to 60% per site. So we're trying to figure out some ways, technology. When I go to Kroger's or Publix, I want to buy wine or 6-pack. I have to show my driver's license. So that technology is out there that might allow us to scan somebody's driver's license before they can come in there to be. Do you think that technology might stretch over something like that? Area of transportation.
I'd have to look into that one, but that seems like something that would be a potential candidate. I think we're happy to look into, you know, eligibility regarding that.
Well, most of the ones we got, convenience centers are right out on the road, correct? That's what I was thinking about. That technology, when do you have to come to this time?
So the the obligation deadline would be 2024, end of September 2024, and then there's a 5-year window to you know, finish the construction on those projects by 2029.
Mayor, could that be used checking if somebody's coming in your county, out of county bringing trash? Yeah, yeah, I understand, yeah.
Have issues.
We have issues too. Trash is a big issue, period, yeah. That's interesting, it's to give us about how much, but I think it's okay. Appreciate it, Mayor. Anyone else have questions? Thank you, Sean. I need a motion to endorse the call for projects for the COVID relief funds. Motion needs second. Hearing no more discussion. Everyone in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? So moved. Okay, we're gonna move down to our informational items in your agenda. And this is the presentation for the 22-23 work program. I'm introducing Sean again.
Great, thank you. So the second item related to the Unified Transportation Planning Work Program is, in addition to the changes to the current work program, staff has drafted a work program that identifies the planning activities that will be carried out over the next 2 federal fiscal years, and consists of a number of planning activities that GNRC will be leading throughout the region, and a lot of the ongoing core requirements carried out through the MPO program. And it also identifies a number of the planning activities that are going to be led at the local, regional, and state level as well, so that those efforts are coordinated over the coming years. And so we've shared with you a link to this draft document, and I'll cover at least some of the highlights. You know, some of the types of work and activities that are going to be listed pertain to a lot of those core MPO requirements that we've talked about, outreach and engagement efforts, research and data analysis that we do, policy coordination, as well as funding. Just to touch on some of those items, you know, we're continuing to work on, you know, maintaining our website presence, building some of those existing relationships, and forming new relationships with stakeholders throughout the region, as well as working with them to share some of the data and tools that we've come up with to support their efforts. We're continuing to update our data and modeling tools, as well as looking at potentially new data sets and tools to, you know, enhance our ongoing efforts, and particularly looking to support kind of local planning efforts as well of taking this data and then leveraging it to support the work that you guys are doing at the local level. On the policy coordination front, we continue to convene our existing boards, committees, roundtable groups, and then also looking to establish task forces across a number of topics, particularly congestion and project delivery as focus items for the coming years. We're continuing to update the Transportation Improvement Program, and we'll be going through a TIP update cycle in the coming year, and then continuing to administer the existing funding programs that we offer, as well as supporting some of the state efforts as well, and also identifying any potential new opportunities to expand revenue for transportation. To talk about some of the kind of more discrete planning activities that we'll carry out, 2 in particular that we have identified is a regional freight study, as well as a regional traffic impact study. And on the regional freight study, we're looking to kind of build off of past freight planning work that we've done to really, convene a lot of the important players in the region in order to develop some programs that can identify some of those top priorities, whether it be safety, truck safety, or rail safety and congestion, so that we can move some of those efforts forward and address those needs. And then, make sure that it's an ongoing effort as well to tackle in the coming years. And then on the regional traffic impact study, we're looking at a number of opportunities to, not only identify and assess options to increase transportation revenue, but working with you all to equip local governments that are dealing with this rapid growth and development, so that, as these new developments are proposed and come in, that you have the tools and resources to help manage and handle those new developments and the traffic impacts that come along with them. Some other additional planning activities that we've noted include a regional conservation strategy to build off some of the work that we've done through the 2045 Regional Transportation Plan to really build out those environmentally sensitive area data sets, to identify where those conservation priorities are within the region and identify some strategies and tools for making sure that we're able to implement those through the local governments moving forward. Also on the horizon is a update to the Coordinated Human Services Transportation Plan that looks at what are those existing transportation services for elderly, low-income populations, and identifies opportunities to advance those strategies through the region through our annual grant solicitations. And then also to deal with a lot of the safety issues, the increase in fatalities for pedestrians, is to work on a regional pedestrian safety action plan to help identify a framework to leverage a lot of the work that's going on at the local and state level, as well as the regional level, to guide some of those strategies and help implement those in the coming years across the various stakeholders that we work with. And so that's a preview of some of the discrete planning activities that we've identified. We're presenting to you today this work program that is a draft that we've also circulated to state and federal partners for their review. And the next step is to address the state and federal comments over the coming months, and then once those have been satisfied, to release the document for public review and comment to bring back to you all in August for adoption. So if there's, happy to take any questions on the UPWP for the next 2 federal fiscal years.
Any questions for Sean on this information? Go ahead, Mayor.
Where does the completion of southern corridor study fit into this?
Yeah, and that's one item that we haven't focused on. Some of the efforts that haven't really been kicked off yet, but also included in the document is the wrap-up of completion of the South Corridor study by the end of the fiscal year, and then also to complete the work on the Interloop, downtown Interloop study that we kicked off over the past year. And so both of those efforts are referenced, and we want to bring those to completion in the coming year as well.
Thank you, Mayor. Any more questions? Hearing none. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to our update on Tdot activities in the regional TIP program. Now, Chair recognizes Brian Hurst, Tdot.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank all your board members. I actually love this opportunity to go up here and speak about what Tdot has, especially the things that confuse people. I get the opportunity to go around the state and speak to all the MPOs and RPOs, and I do this annually. And a lot of the MPOs have me coming out here, multiple times a year, because there is a lot of things that the department does that is confusing. So anytime y'all want me here to return or speak on different things, y'all let me know, especially if you have some weird questions. Give me a list of them. Gives me opportunity to catch up on things I may not know. So I'll jump right up in it. The STIP and TIP cycle will be starting here soon. So the end of this summer, probably in the fall, all the MPOs, including Tdot, start putting their package together and building their next STIPs. Around May of next year, after our highway program comes out, this one just came out for May of this year, came out for 22, so in 22 it'll come out for 23, and those projects that Tdot has actually will go into the STIPs and TIPs. And we're actually working on a new timeline to make sure that we meet expectations for all the MPOs. It's a quick overview there. So I'm going to jump right into some of the questions that was brought to my attention by this MPO, and one of the biggest one is estimates. We all have issues with project estimates. The MPOs do, local governments do, especially big when we see local governments come up with an estimate and we have to come back and say, hey, we need extra money. So just throwing it out here, I want to share some things that's helping us. We've made changes internally, and also giving that opportunity that anytime somebody wants to reach out to us and say, hey, can you share what you're doing? We can actually sit down and meet with you and try to help y'all too. So about 2 years ago, it was brought to my attention that, hey, some of our projects, we get a planning estimate of $20 million and we wind up letting it 5-10 years later for $40 or $50 million. Well, that's a big change. That hurts us. That's $30 million that we got to come up with, and FHWA is not just sitting there giving us $30 more million. What that means is somebody's project in this room probably got put on the shelf because we had to get $30 million or something. So it comes from another project, puts on another priority project, and moves forward. That also trickles. That means that project that we put on hold moved to next year, and when it moved to next year, we had to borrow money from another project to get that project. So it's just a trickle-down effect. So it's so important to us when we say, hey, we got a project, and here's the cost, we want to be as close as possible to that. So what we found is some of our smaller projects, safety projects, railroad projects, intersections, and we're spot on. If it takes us 5 years to do it, the planning document and time it was awarded is about the same. So we're really good at that. And I also think that's something y'all are probably pretty good at. What we found is our larger, major, capacity-driven projects are the ones that's actually killing us. I'll just use I-440, for example. That was a different project because we didn't have a chance to do a planning document. But using it as an example, I remember sitting in a room and $70 million was thrown out there. As y'all are aware, it was left for $150 million. So sitting there thinking, it could cost us $7 million and then award it for $150 million, that was a big chance for us. It impacted us. It impacted other people's projects. So what we've done is we went back and visited our design guidelines, meaning that through the design development process, we're doing more estimates. We're finding more major milestones and we say, okay, we need to update this estimate and go ahead and we got new updated quantities and update our estimates more and more and more. So what you're going to see is, in MPOs especially, is we're going to do more modifications in the TIPs because we're getting newer updated information. On top of that, our planning documents has changed. Typically when we do a planning document, just like any of y'all do a planning document in y'all's area, that estimate in the planning document is basically good for that day, maybe that year. Our research showed that our major projects, anywhere from 5 to 10 years in development, and I know some of y'all sitting here go, you're killing me. Probably been 15 years since you've got a project, and there's a reason behind that, but our standard development process is 5 to 10 years. Well, if our estimate's only good for 1 year, what do we need to do? So we started doing some research internally, and we started using projection factors. So we're actually showing that every planning document we've done in the last 2 years has a 5-year projection and a 10-year projection. So in my office, when we started planning for this, we use the 10-year. We want to make sure we're using the best one possible. Recent data has showed letting some of these projects that move a little quicker, it's looking good. But since we only been doing this a couple of years and projects take about 10 years, I'm going to need a few more years to figure out how good we're doing, but we think we're doing a better job at that. So there are some of the major changes we've been doing to make sure we're giving everybody a better estimate. We also don't want to lie to the public. It's a perception. Like, man, they did this project. They said it's going to be $20 million again, but they let us for $50 million. They basically lied to us. We do not want to be liars at all. See what else I got here. So some of the data I want to pop up what show. So the big blue blob there is basically historically what our estimates look like. At the very beginning it was wide, and it was wide all the way until it was left. And again, that's a surprise on everything. How in the world did you blow the estimate that much? The blue line is actually the trending line that we're going through now. It's showing that, hey, our estimates are looking better. We're getting narrow as we're going through because you want to be point on or spot on at the very time you're letting. So closer we get to that number earlier on is good for us. Actually, we want to be perfect. It's not going to happen, but we're shooting for that goal of being on that yellow line of getting a good estimate early and following through with it. Again, I'm going to throw it out here. If anybody in y'all's area is like, hey, we'd like some help, reach out to me or Matt, and we'll get you in touch with the STID, which is our Strategic Transportation Investments Division, one that helps do our estimates, and we'll try to help y'all as much as possible if you're interested. Another weird question we get all the time, advanced construction. So sometimes in the tip that you'll see that we use our federal funds, NHPP or SDBG, all of a sudden it changes to AC SDBG. So what we consider that and approved through FHWA is advanced construction. Another word for that is the state is using state funds. We're moving our state funds on there so a project has money to move forward. There's a bunch of bullets here, and I'm not going to sit here and read through them like that, but what I will say, advanced construction funds allows the department to continue the process of a project without stopping it. So every year, y'all may or may not be aware of, Tdot does a really good job. We're one of the only few states that actually zero out our balance, our federal share money every year. End of the year, around August, we're at $0 of federal share money. So if you got a project that pops up to see it needs to move from PE to right away in August, September, well, we're not just going to stop it. We know it's going to continue. It's not fair for y'all to go, well, I'm going to project stop it. We will put state money on there. We'll AC it and continue that process. We can leave AC funds on there as long as we need to, but we can also convert them back to federal money at any time, as long as there's apportionment allowed. We have to have an apportionment of federal money to convert it back to federal dollars, basically give us the state money back. We always want state money on our hands because we always have project pop up. We have a bridge. Memphis got a bridge right now. We got to jump on it. We got to have money. We have a bridge in your area that's falling. We have to jump on it and do it. We're not going to sit here and go, oh, we ain't got money. So state, it's very important to always have some money available, just like this. We have a project going through there. We run out of apportionment. We need to continue. We AC it. We base federal money on it. What it does is we have to get federal approval just like anything else. It follows the same process. It's different than actually just starting a project and say, oh, we're just going to pay state funds for this and call it good. We do have a few of them. I think right now I have 2 of them that I'm aware of, major projects with all state funds on. That's the decision the state made. We went with it. But everything else is AC because we really don't want a project to stop. The other thing is, let's see here, the very last one I think was a good book. Oh, it does not have to be used for construction only, even though it says advanced construction can be used at any phase. So we can use AC anytime we want to. Most time we use it when we run out of federal share money or obligation authority, or when we haven't received our next share money yet and we just continue with it. So again, if you got any questions, y'all can ask me now and we wait till the end. But that is the confusing part. Jump right into the highway program. As you're aware, the governor recently approved and our legislators approved our highway program. This highway program is brought to y'all's board every year, and y'all rank projects. Y'all help prioritize what we have. And remember, I was here a couple of years ago, and for the department, it's important to prioritize projects on phase. We always have to have PE projects. We always have to have right-of-way projects. We always have to have construction projects. If we only rank construction projects number 1, that means eventually we'll run out of PE projects. Mr. Degg always says, got to have sausage in a sausage maker. Got to always keep it going. So we always have to have a balanced project. So I pulled up some quick numbers for y'all in this NPO. Total in the highway program that y'all basically rank every year, phases. So some projects is in PE, it has a phase of right-of-way, it has a phase of construction left over. Y'all got 112 phases in y'all's NPO. That is a balance of $2.7 billion. That's a B. I had to make sure $1 billion. Takes a while to use that. We don't get $2 billion a year. So just y'all's NPO, that's a lot of money. What y'all did receive this year, and this is remarkable when I start pulling data because I want, I'm speaking to y'all. What's sad is when I go speak to some of the other NPOs, they don't have this data, is In 22, you had 6 projects at $58 million. In 23, this is this year's highway program we just approved. 23, you have 3 projects at $54 million. In 24, you have 5 projects at $58.7 million. 3 years, 14 projects, $171 million. How does that look compared to everybody else? I don't know if y'all can see it or not, but number of projects, you're ranked number 1 by a lot. Y'all got 14 projects. The next MPO has 4 projects. So Nashville is getting their share of projects. And so be it. We have traffic, we have needs, and we want to make sure we're meeting y'all's needs. Money-wise, Memphis is outdoing y'all by money. They did have, I think, 3 projects. One of them was Airways Boulevard with $80 million. One of them was Lamar Avenue at $80 million. You're talking about $160 million right there out of that 170. We also graph everything we do when we look at our highway program. By this graph, on this side over here, I don't know if y'all can see it, but Nashville has a huge pie of it. That's the project y'all got compared to everybody else's MPOs. We look at everybody's MPOs. We want to make sure we try to be balanced. This year wasn't so balanced. Nashville is money. The only one beating y'all is Memphis. And I told y'all they had some pretty major projects. So again, from Tdot standpoint, Nashville is getting their share and doing a really good job. You don't have to memorize all these numbers. Remember the 962. The Improve Act passed several years ago, and we appreciate it. It helped us. It brought some income in. We're never here to hold our hand out and beg for more money. If somebody gives us money, we'll take it, and we're going to spend it. I just said we balance out our books every year at 0. We get money from other states that don't spend their money, and I didn't even mention that. Then every year, if we zero out ours, other states don't do a good job, and most of them don't. That money goes into a redistribution, and Tdot gets to go for that redistribution of federal funds. So every year, we're getting additional obligation authority to spend more money. So again, 962, that graph will stay in the corner here in a second so we can see what the data looks like. That data was taken a year ago. It's projects in PE, right-of-way, construction, and complete. So in the Approve Act, 2017, we had 962 projects. And that balance was $10.4 billion for the projects. Remember, again, this is not a complaint, this is just truth. When they passed the Improve Act, 962 projects, we got all those projects. They didn't take none of them back, but the indexing, the increases of gas, that started falling off as it started getting awarded. So when we committed, said, hey, 10 to 12 years, we'll probably get this done, as money started falling off, we didn't get all the money that was first brought up, but we still got all those projects, our years had to increase. We couldn't just stick with, hey, we're going to do 12 years, but we didn't get the money we first thought. This MPO brought to my attention, and it's not a bad question, so that's why I'm here, is why don't y'all, or I think y'all supposed to spend state money, the Improve Act funds, to do just Improve Act money, to projects. And the federal money goes to help other people in need or for other projects. And that is a great question. Again, reason why I'm here. So actual dollars, right over there, that we've received since the passage of the Improve Act. $115 million. But y'all know that ain't a lot. It's a lot in my pocket, but it ain't a lot for a project. $160 million. We keep getting more. $198 million. That sounds really good. And so far to date, $131 million. So we're on trend to get in a year good. So let's do some rough calculations. If I just throw out there and say, okay, every year the state gets $200 million for Improve Act funds, what could we do? So it changed. 962 is now increased at the very top to 1,021. That we add more projects, we separate them. We have a project here in this MPO. It goes from Nashville to Kentucky State Line. That was one project. We broke it in 4 projects. Same thing, so we had to break it out so it shows we got more projects. The new estimate is $15.3 million. Remember when we passed the Improve Act, majority of our projects didn't even have a planning document. So we had to come up with estimates. We didn't have no planning document, so we came up with estimates. So it's increased. So we got $15.3 billion. If we only put our state funds at $200 million, it would take 76 years. I don't think nobody in this room would be alive in 76 years, nor would you be happy if you told your constituents that it's going to take us 76 years to finish this. That's the reason why we use our federal money. And this money supplements what we do. It's written in the law that way, and that's how Tdot does it. As of today, this is where you compare the numbers. The biggest number we want to see is basically what's been complete. But we got the 1,021 projects, we got 310 in PE, we got 98 in construction, 98 right away, 91 in construction, 148 completed projects. So that number up here is 61. So in 1 year, we have doubled what we do. We are moving forward. We are moving fast. We have 376 projects we ain't started, and that number's wrong. So I'm sorry when I said it to you. I know it's not wrong. The number's wrong. 299 of those projects we haven't started are bridges. They're important to us, but they're bridges. So as the rates go down, we'll start doing more of them. We do a lot of bridges every year. While I was sitting here, I pulled up some numbers just for Nashville, because I want Nashville to know what they're doing, or the Nashville MPO. I know there's a lot of counties here. It's the Nashville MPO. In the Improve Act, 152 projects, 97 are currently under development. That's a lot. 8 has already been complete. 47 has not started, but as of 47, it's 32 in bridges. So we are in process of doing almost every one of y'all's projects. I think that's a good thing, and it helps y'all because y'all vote on these projects. So again, just supplement why we don't use state funds on here. We got a Hamilton County project that was awarded for $132 million. That would almost took all the money up for state funds. I-440, $154 million. That would have took up almost of it. Phase 2, y'all just voted on phase 3, and I think there's a phase 4 coming of the ITS Smart Corridor of 24. We're on phase 2 alone. Was right at $50 million. Again, I said we're fixing to start phase 4. We wouldn't even start at phase 1 if we'd only use state money. So it's good that we use our federal money. O'Brien County, $70 million. Shelby County, $63 million. Also, this is very important to know. The Improve Act funds that we receive, as helpful as it is, it was not just for the 962 projects. Inside the bill, it states that we must maintain the quality of our payments and bridges. That means that money did not go to project, it actually has to go to our maintenance too. So not all that $200 million is going to a project, it has to go to maintenance. We guarantee a state of good repair. So please remember that when everybody says, where did the money go? 2 things I want to share on the way out, and then I'm open for any questions you got. Tdot, Matt Missouri and his group did a wonderful job. I was grateful to be on the team. That link is impossible for y'all to copy or anything else. So if y'all need, I think Matt presented on this, iTrip. iTrip will give you just about every single project a good status. You can sort by Improve Act stuff, see what you got, and tons of areas. I'll just hit it quickly. I think Matt touched it, but you can reach out to Matt Missouri if he can share a link with y'all. Actually, I think we got it on our website in several different places. I don't have it on here as I'm ending, but I also want to throw out here, for the last 2 years, the department is working with all the MPOs. Internally, our IT section is building a electronic STIP and TIP. We're asking all the MPOs to give feedback. All projects will be in there. It's free. We're doing all the maintenance. We're doing all the costs. And while we're building it right now, it's the perfect time for people to get in there and say what they want to see, because once it's built, we're getting pretty close to being built, it would be almost impossible to go back and say we want to add some new things. So for the last 2 years, we've been doing it, and it will also have projects. It'll have a public interface where any one of y'all go and look at all your projects. At this time, I want to open it up for questions. I know I ran over, and I do apologize. I tried to run as fast as I could.
Any questions for Brian? There's a lot of information there. There's lots to digest.
And I'll come back anytime you want to. Give me more time. I'll speak longer. I don't mind.
Got a question from Mayor Ken Moore.
How can we help you get, Improve Act index? How can we get more money to you and work with you, the general incentive?
I don't say it a lot, but that is over my head. I'm going to let you handle that with our commissioner, Mr. Deggs, and Mr. Elliott. I think that's a good place to start. And I'm sure that they would talk to you about that. But if you do give us something, we will spend it.
Appreciate it, Mayor. I can relate to you. Like goes over my head, you know. I got a lot of knowledge here, and I picked their ears. Any more questions? Mayor?
Brian, first of all, thanks for coming to this. I think this is probably one of the most on what went into that amount?
What?
That shows 76.5.
So I just did quick math, that if we receive more than what I showed, $200 million, and our current estimate for the Improve Act is $15.8 something million, just quick calculation shows 76 years. That ain't how we're gonna do it. I believe that Mr. Day, and probably Mr. Elliott, I know they spoke to the governor this year, they spoke to them last year in front of the assembly, and expressed how many years it was. I think they, please don't quote me, but I believe I was hearing somewhere around 15 to 20. That's a realistic goal, but I would say Mr. Day, Mr. would have actual dates for you. As we know, it's always moving harder as projects grow safety, as environmental issue, it always pushes the project. But we are actually, and I'm sure I'm recording it later online, but when we're doing our highway program, I'm actually in the room. Improve that project are priority. When we come to y'all with take lead vote on these, you should only see Improve that project that you're voting. If there is a project that's on that list, non-Improve Act, it's y'all's right to question why it's on here, it ain't Improve Act. They're all even brought to our attention by this now unique. And this unique, gotta go in there somewhere. We always need new starters, but they're not going to take the priority of an Improve Act project. Improve Act project are priority.
And I guess that's another question that I have is, do we need to revisit that list of projects that are Improve Act projects? Because are they still the top priority if they're not just receiving state funding and now federal funding, which might mean a project that's important to one of our communities? So do we need to revisit, and are y'all doing that, or do we just?
We're always re-looking at what we have on plate, but because they are listed in law, there are commitments. It is responsibility of this board, all the boards on state, MPO and RPO, to let us know if a parties change. We get those all the time. A lot of the bridges, a local government came up and said, we don't even want to do this bridge anymore. And we're not going to change the law, but if you stop this one, can we now use some of that money on a different? So we do things like that, but by law, we are doing the 90s. So y'all tell us, today a priority, we need to know, so stop it. It may stay on that list, but we can honestly know internally we killed it. Our board, y'all know y'all killed it, and then we'll have to write letters to the legislature. Yes, please look over that list all the time.
Well, and I guess when we were going through adopting our plan and stuff, personally, I was surprised that so much federal highway money was going to Improve Act projects when I thought that it was done through state funding. So exactly what you said in your presentation was other projects that we wanted to see get done are now kicked down the road. And I just want to make sure that those Improve Act projects are still the projects that are priority for us in our region.
Mayor, I'd also add, getting on the type of project, remember, Improve Act projects mostly are major passenger projects. You still have in your area smaller projects, it's not in a highway program, it's not Improve Act, they're still getting done. They're getting done with other funds, safety funds like that, discretionary funds. But yes, the Improve Act is the highway program, the 3-year plan, that's what we're looking at.
And I just go back and look for Sean, y'all remember how much money was used for Improve Act project that we thought was going to be state dollars? I'm sorry, I don't know.
I know we had the pie chart about, Improve Act projects as a percentage. It was over half, right?
I think 70% of the federal funds in the $10 billion plan are put on Improve Act projects.
And I guess when you look at that amount going to projects that we thought were going to get to be new projects, that worries me. And I think it needs to be a discussion that we as the board have. Do you all have a mechanism now, since you are asking for federal funds for the Improve Act project? Do you
is state, federal, and there's different kinds of federal. We use a pot. And the pots of money are very flexible within. Like the SDG funds, the federal funds, we can use that on an NH route. So the way we use it is we use all flexibility of all our funds to get this out. And again, the avenue for us is the NGO and the RPOs need to get them to do. So when we come here and we're asking, hey, rank these projects, when I'm here, and I assume John and everybody else, our message to y'all is, if you have new starts, we need them to, we're always taking a list. I have a list of what we consider new starts, and it's brought to the table all the time, and they need to be ranked with it. So if, again, if you're hitting a perfect point that is the approved act needs to be looked at per each one of y'all's area, if it's no longer a priority, somebody needs to know about it, we can document it, and then we need to know what's on the new priority. That's the only way we can focus. This is our action. This is our communication plan.
And I guess that's the other thing, we're all partners, this dollar at the table, so that decisions can be made, and I think we all, us as board, us as individual municipalities, need to make sure that we're communicating with everybody, and I would just ask that, too, that sometimes I feel like projects are being changed, and we find out when there's an amendment, and we don't get that much discussion or input on it, so, all is better at that.
And that's why I'm throwing myself out here, and at any time this board wants to hear from me or anybody else, I'll change my name. I actually do all the time, so I can go to the other NGOs, because actually I've talked to Matt Missouri about a new process as soon as the highway program is done, is one of us is not me come here and say, here's why we voted for these projects, here's why we did vote this. And sometimes you're not gonna like the answer, because we only have limited money, but that's our commitment, we need to do that.
Well, I appreciate you answering my question. I just wanted this board to be aware that, some of the things with the improved act that I think we were behind pushing that had changed, and I think we as a board need to, guide, we're okay. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Reed. Very, very good questions. Mayor Kelly.
State of good repair. Does it have to be in there? It's in law now, you can look up.
What is the percentage of the money from the improved act that you use to keep the roads in good repair? Y'all have a percentage that you're breaking out the improved act money that's going, let's just say, for instance, hypothetically, Highway 109 Route 4 needs paving, which it does. What percentage of the improved act goes to good repair of roads?
Gotcha. So, you may not like the answer. Again, it goes back to that bucket. What all money we have, it goes into a bucket. We now do a 3-year service on this, so we have a 3-year, actually, I think it's on the website, this is what we do. And annually, we update that. So, every aspect of Tdot, we'll just kick on bridge repair, and we'll kick on paving, research. We'll stick on them too. We have a certain percentage of our money, federal and state, that we set aside for that. When things come up, bad winters, we have to put more towards it. We put more towards it, it's gotta come off of the project. It's a judgment game, it has to be.
No, I understand.
But we don't have a certain percentage that says, improvement money is going towards it.
No, I understand this bucket of money, but all the cities here understand that things called an audit. And they're asking us how we spend our money. And so the Improve Act was set aside for X amount of dollars that's come in per year. That has to get audited to see how it's used. I would assume it's not just a bucket, federal money, other money, Improve Act money. So is there a way for you to go and ask someone on the audit process, Improve Act money, and they show a delineation of money that's been used to keep bridges and roads in good repair, or you guys have your audit over your finances, surely they're breaking out federal money, Improve Act money,
They are.
all. We end up going to penitentiary when we use money out of the enterprise fund for a general fund, because everybody else are running on security.
You're right, and I'll go back and I'll see if there's, I think I know the answer, and I think the answer is no, we don't set aside just Improve Act funds that go towards road maintenance. We use that as our state fund. Improve Act funds goes into our state fund, and that percentage goes to Region 3. Region 3 determines what county, city, y'all need. But I'll go back and I'll try to figure out, I'll ask somebody above me, is there a percentage? But from my knowledge, it's no. It goes in there and we pull out a percentage of our money, the total money, that here's how much state money, here's how much federal money is going to go to this region for this activity. And the regions help us determine what roads need to be done, what bridges need to be done, and we use that money. And we do have an audit, and we make sure all our projects are in line. Yes, sir, anytime. Good questions. I like hard ones.
Thank you, Mayor Callis. Mayor Reed, very good question. Anyone else? Well, hearing none. Brian, thank you. There's a lot of information to digest, as I said, and I know they throw some questions at you. Just punch those hard balls now.
I like hard.
That's right, that's right.
Thank y'all, guys.
Hey, appreciate it. Okay, we'll move to our regular reports, and, I think I'm going to introduce Pam Cordenbrock with for the federal report. And I think she's supposed to be on Zoom with us.
Yes, sir, I am. Can I just confirm that y'all can hear me?
I can hear you. Hold on just a second. We're gonna fix it where all the room can hear you.
Thank you.
You mean turn this around? Okay, Pam, you still with us?
Yes, sir, I am. Can y'all hear me now?
We can hear you. Go ahead, Pam.
Terrific.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with y'all. Just a couple of quick comments on behalf of FHWA. I wanted to just remind y'all that the notice of proposed funding for the RAISE program, which is what is the new infra program of discretionary funding, is open until July 12th. So if there's anyone that would like to submit an application, we encourage you to do that. And if you have any questions regarding the requirements of the RAISE program, please let me or Sean, Teresa, or Sabrina know, and we're happy to provide those answers. Just letting you know that on June 30th, FHWA will be hosting a webinar on the effectiveness of performance-based planning and programming and transportation decision-making for state and MPOs, state DOTs, MPOs. We encourage y'all's participation for MPO staff and partners in the webinar to understand how performance management can continue to enhance the planning process. So we have shared information on registering for that webinar with MPO staff, and they can share it with your individual staffs if you'd like to participate in that. And as mentioned earlier by Sean Falzer, we are reviewing the Nashville MPO's draft 22-23 UPWP, and we are on schedule to provide comments by the beginning of July. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the time and we'll take any questions.
Okay, is there any questions out there for Pam? I don't see any questions, Pam, and I don't have anything. We appreciate you joining us today, and hope you all have a good Father's Day.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move to our Tdot report. Chair recognizes Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one announcement that I have. You may have heard yesterday that the Multimodal Access Grant Awards were finally released, and I'm happy to report that this region received 4 grant awards: Hendersonville, Gallatin, Murfreesboro, and Smyrna. So congratulations to those entities. That's all I have.
Any questions? Seeing none. You through, Matt?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to Chair's report. This is something that's been rolled out. I'll probably read some of it. I want everyone to be aware of this. The MPOs across the state of Tennessee have an unobligated balance of money that has not been spent and runs the risk of expiring if it's not spent within the timeline. So the staff has approached me about establishing a project Delivery Task Force to help identify these obstacles and a timely obligation of funding to work with Tdot to find solutions and move this project forward. As mayors, some of you have probably wondered why a project got cut short, maybe the money moved, or maybe it got slowed down. And this task force is going to help with communication with Tdot, and it'll probably meet quarterly to answer these projects, because I know you as mayors have got your folks at home and your constituents looking at you, why is this project not moving faster, or why is it not started yet? So this is going to answer a lot of questions for people like me that's new to this group, and I think it's something that's needed very much, because as Brian just showed us, he wants to keep that line yellow, and I think this task force could help that. Yeah, it's keeping the door open for communication. So I think it's going to be a handful of local mayors and probably local judicial staff experts from Transportation Coordinating Committee and appropriate personnel for Tdot will be on this task force. So I'm asking Mayor Reed, as you see, she's very knowledgeable. We don't want to let her get away yet. That she'll take this task force and work with the staff to assemble a group of people to serve on it, and I think she's willing to do that. Be happy to. Thank you, Mayor Reed. We're your knowledge, and you've done a great job as past chairman. Really, there was no other person to ask. I appreciate you. Let's just say if Mayor Reed approaches you about serving on this, please help her all you can. Because this is something that's going to help us communicate where you're more knowledgeable. Because trust me, I'll be going to the task force asking things as chairman of this group. It's stuff, projects that's in your area. And does anybody got any questions for me about that? Oh, if not, I'm going to move to the staff report. Chair recognizes Sean again.
The only thing that I want to mention is next Tuesday, June 22nd at 1:30, we're going to host a urban freight webinar in partnership with UNC Chapel Hill to discuss some of the freight industry trends that we're seeing in planning, as well as kind of just how the delivery environment and safety concerns have changed over the past year. And so we can send around some information on that event, and so feel free to register, attend, or to share with folks that you think would be interested in good participants for that. And then the only other thing, Michael, did you want to note staff?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Sean. Before we adjourn this meeting and move on to the GNRC Executive Board, just plugs for that. Stick around. We do have some important business today as far as the regional council goes. But I did, this being one of our first meetings back in person, I wanted to introduce to you personally some of the leadership that has joined our team in recent months. First off, please, to my right here is Candy Henry. You met her online a few months ago, but she's our new chief legal counsel. Many of you may already know her from her past experience as an attorney here in the Nashville area, serving as counsel to the Nashville MTA previously, the Southside Council, as well as some other public agencies like the Nashville MTA. And then the other member of our leadership team that I wanted to acknowledge have her stand up, which is Jennifer Hill, which is our new director of community. Jessica Hill, like I said, she's new. Jessica Hill is our new director of community and regional planning, which houses a lot of the functions of GNRC that support the Transportation Policy Board and the MPO process overall. Jessica joined us from, Ashley is sitting right behind Jessica. That didn't come out there. But Jessica joined us from our counterpart over in the Charlotte metro area in North Carolina. She served as planning director for the Central Line Regional Council prior to joining GNRC. Also have bad ears, so I can't really hear what I'm saying out loud, so apologies for that. So we'll have more introductions to make at the next meeting through at the GNRC Executive Board. Please stick around for that. With that, I'll turn it back over to Sean for any concluding staff remarks.
I'm all set.
You're good to go. Okay, appreciate that, gang. Hey, I appreciate everybody coming today, and we're having a quorum. Got a lot of work to do. Is there any other business to be brought before the board? Well, seeing none, I'll take one more motion. Thank you, Mayor Moore. Got a motion. A second. We are adjourned.